Hello and welcome to the Heart of the Matter. Today we're talking a little bit about the avoidant attached style person and why they like being alone or why they would prefer to be alone, why they like their independence or need their independence and their autonomy to feel safe in relationships. Now, if you haven't done it as yet, I'm going to ask you again, hit the subscribe button so that you are always alerted to new episodes. And if you find these episodes helpful, pass them on to a friend. We never can tell who it's going to find and help at the right time. Now, let's get into it. We've been in relationships with someone with an avoidant attachment style, or perhaps you're the one who's recognized that you've got an avoidant attachment style. Let's first talk to the anxious or the secure attached person, or even the avoidant attached person who has been in a relationship with someone who's got an avoidant attachment style, or has now started dating someone who's got an avoidant attachment style. And this need for alone time and space and independence and autonomy is a little confusing. Let's try to clear that up first. Now, let's remember that someone with an avoidant attachment style grew up in a home where they did not feel like they were getting adequate affection and attention and validation. They might have gotten into trouble at home, as most children tend to do with our caregivers. We're not perfect kids. We're going to do things that will probably annoy the adults, and that will make us feel bad. So some kids will continue to lash out and try to regain favor with their caregivers, and some will learn how to self-soothe and make themselves as small as possible so that they don't get into trouble. Guess which would be which? Well, those with an avoidant attachment style, they will tend to learn how to self-soothe and stay out of trouble. What I find with those who's got an avoidant attachment style is that they're incredibly charming as well and funny. They have a great sense of humor. If you talk to them about where that sense of humor developed, you're probably going to hear something like, oh, in my childhood, there was a parent or a caregiver who was probably sad at times. And that child learned how to tell jokes, because that was one way of warming up that caregiver and becoming their ray of sunshine. And so that child grows up getting that validation, or as a child got that validation from that caregiver, that they were worthy, they were of value, they got that validation, they got the attention and the affection. And we find that children tend to do things to make their caregivers happy or feel at peace, perhaps so that if that caregiver is in a place of peace and joy, then the child will be able to get the affection and the attention. If this makes sense, let me know in the comment section what you think about it. If it resonates with you and you've got an avoidant attachment style, feel free to push through the fear of vulnerability and let me know in the comments. But taking this into consideration, it's no doubt that a person or a little child who grew up feeling this way would have learned over a period of time after getting into other relationships, perhaps, and feeling that same sense of abandonment and rejection from time to time. They started to learn that being alone was safe. You see, when we are in the company of others, we run the risk of hearing things or things being done that would hurt us. And so being alone becomes the thing of comfort. When we're alone, then there isn't much need to be hyper vigilant about the people around us or what we're going to say to them that might just be offensive. We learn to take space and time to process our emotions. You'll also find that those who's got an avoidant attachment style take a long time before responding. And that's generally from the fear of, I may just say the wrong thing. And if I say the wrong thing, I might be met at by yelling or somebody getting upset. And then I start to feel bad, or I may feel guilty, or I may feel remorseful. And then you'll find too that sometimes the avoidant attach will make an attempt to share how they're feeling. They're going to be probably met by disapproval, and then they'll shut down. And we have to appreciate that by putting ourselves in their shoes. If I finally, after all this fear, I decide, okay, I'm going to speak up, and I do. And the fears that I had about speaking up are now confirmed because the person I'm speaking with disapproves of what I say, or there's just this big misunderstanding, and now I feel terrible about myself, then I may not want to continue having that conversation. So I am probably naturally going to shut down if I have not healed enough into a secure attached style person. So our attachment styles will trigger that fear, and that fear is going to drive our reaction. Now, why are they independent? Why is it they're like their autonomy? Same reason. Independence means that I'm in control of my life. And if I'm in control of my life, then no one can hurt me. I can protect myself. I'm also going to keep my individuality, because anything that threatens that makes me feel like I can't be myself. So an avoidant attached style person tend to push against boundaries. They tend to test boundaries to see how you're also going to react. If they're testing your boundaries and you put up a wall or you walk away, then they know that you're not a safe person to be with, or they assume you're not a safe person to be with. If you have an avoidant attachment style, I will ask you to consider that the other human beings will not feel safe when tested as well. You see, it's generally very difficult for someone with an avoidant attachment style to put themselves in someone else's shoes, to empathize. However, it is incredibly necessary to understand that when we test people, we might be self-sabotaging. Anyone who is tested, anyone who feels pushed in a corner, regardless of the attachment style, they are going to push back in a way to protect themselves. And that can be freezing up, fawning, or just running away from the situation, right? So, and pushing back, the fight-flight response. So we want to be mindful that testing someone is not a way for them to prove if they are trustworthy or not. Of course, you may get a better idea of how they deal with conflicts, but it's provoking someone into an action when it's not necessary. And when we test people, they can sense that it's just not normal, natural, or right. It's a form of manipulation. And as human beings, we don't have to be super emotionally intelligent. We don't have to be super logically smart to know when we're not safe with another human being. So I would strongly advise and suggest that we stay away from testing as much as we can. Let's try to get to a place where we could communicate our feelings and fears, as terrifying as that is. Now, how is it someone with an avoidant attachment style can be successful at work if they have a hard time being vulnerable, or they have a hard time being alone? I mean, to be successful in work, we must be able to communicate with our peers. We must be able to be vulnerable to some degree, to open ourselves up to hurt. Well, someone with an avoidant attachment style also grew up in a home where there was the need, or they believed there was a need for people pleasing. And in people pleasing, we see that the results that we can have from that. Now, in most of these cases, I can't say all, generally most of these cases, the person with an avoidant attachment style would have been that child who excelled in school, excelled in sport, excelled in something that was not human related, meaning did not completely depend on a human being, a caregiver, to score them. let's say they focused on their school and achieving higher grades, or if it was sport, achieving, how do you put that in words? Just doing really great in sport. And they got the achievements. They did really, really well. When they did well, their caregivers, parents, would have been proud of them. So they would have seen the efforts that they placed on achieving something and the reward that they got for it from the humans around them. That's the validation they got for achieving this thing. Now, they've learned there that they will be rewarded for things that they could put their efforts into, but it's not judged by the people that they love. The only judgment they get from the people they love is when they excel in the workplace or sports or whatever talents they might have that they nurture and foster. So what I'm really saying here is that they have learned that there are certain things that they have control of, like their work or something, an achievement that they can make, and then they get the validation from parents back then, and now that they're grown, they get it from their peers and their partners. This is perhaps the reason they're able to be successful in the workplace, but have difficulties in personal relationships. Now, for someone who's got an anxious, secure, or even an avoidant attachment style, and you're dating someone with an avoidant attachment style, and this is difficult for you to wrap your head around, hopefully you've gotten an idea from what I've just spoken about on how these fears could have been born, and a little explanation as to why these behaviors persist, how the pattern was created. And in now understanding, now having a little bit more of an awareness of it, perhaps we can relax and appreciate that their behavior, their thought pattern has got nothing to do with you. The most and the best that you can do for an avoidant attached partner is try to appreciate their needs and respect those needs. You also want to be in a space to really make a decision for yourself. Is this what you want your healthy relationship to look like? You get to choose on if this is the kind of relationship you want for the rest of your life. And do what's best for you. I'm not here to tell you that this is a relationship that can work or will not work for you. Only you have the map and the module to who you are. Only you know who your partner is and what your goals, what your missions, what your visions are for your future. So you take this information and make the best one for you as well as your relationship. And please notice that I'm not saying make the best decision for your partner. Your partner, the avoidant attached style person, will have to do their own healing. Sometimes we've got to be careful that we're not enabling a person's behavior or thought patterns. When we do that, when we enable them, when we're always showing up to appreciate where they're coming from and only empathizing without boundaries, then we're doing them a disservice. We're not allowing them to grow. We're not allowing them to push through their own boundaries, their fears that keep them locked in being this person that they're really not comfortable with. I've spoken to so many people with an avoidant attached style. I have been around so many. I've seen them experience this pain of being locked in that fear, wanting to move forward, wanting to pursue the thing that they love or they want or they desire, but fear holds them back. In order for us to help the people we love with avoidant attachment style, we have to give them a chance to grow on their own. We can't help them. Now, for someone with an avoidant attachment style, and you're listening to this, I know it's not easy. I know it is not easy to push through that vulnerability. Yes, being vulnerable means that you are setting yourself up for pain. You are giving information about you, things that hurt you, to someone else that you really don't know if you can trust them. And yes, you are valid in your belief that it takes time to trust people. And we don't know when another human being will turn their backs on us. I get that. However, life is beautiful because of the emotions we allow ourselves to feel. I will ask you to push through the fear bit by bit. Start with your friends. Start with the people who you've been closest to for the longest period of time. And instead of listening to their problems and helping them solve their problems, share a little bit about your struggles with them and wait and hear how they respond. I think you'd be surprised at how much closer your relationships with your friends and family can be when you start to open up a little bit and they see the core of who you are. And I've known so many avoidant attached people. You're beautiful. The world needs to see you. You are highly intuitive. You're brilliant. And the world needs to see this and hear it. I wish you all the best. Until the next episode, I'm your host, Annalisa Bahadur.